Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So this one is half Romanian on the home side, half Belgian on the away side. And out of the two breweries involved in this one, it is only the Romanian brewery that is featured on the channel before. Now, when it comes to them, I would say that they are a real pioneer of the Romanian craft beer scene. They do lots of different styles, and it's definitely fair to describe this brewery as being very, very well rounded. When it comes to the Belgian brewery, they are very much a new addition to the Belgian beer scene, and they're quite a pioneer as well because they're trying to introduce a lot of the American beer styles to Belgian beer drinkers, and we know how traditional the Belgian beer scene is, but they've apparently been doing some very, very good stuff, and it's a really nice opportunity to introduce these guys to the channel. So hopefully I can try more of their beer going forward. Now, the beer that we're going to have a look at today is one of the Romanian brewery's latest releases here in Hong Kong. It's a style that I've had from them quite a few times before, one that I know they can do very, very well, and it's also got quite an interesting hop bill to it as well. So needless to say, I'm very, very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this one then, we are going to go to Romania, like I said. We're going to go to the Bucharest area, but we're going to go a little bit to the south of that to a place called Jilava, and that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful Hop Hooligans. So this particular beer is called Social Battery. It comes in at 8% ABV, and this is another New England Hazy Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA. But yeah, this beer is brewed in collaboration with Norm Brewing from Liège in Belgium, who I have never encountered before, but they sound like a very interesting brewery, so hopefully we can find some of their own beers going forward. But yeah, Hop Hooligans, great brewery, real pioneers of the Romanian beer scene, along with Beretta. Those two are the breweries that really kind of spread the word about Romanian craft beer. If you haven't tried any, I highly recommend that you do. But let's crack on with this one then and see what this beer is going to have in store for us. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Hop Hooligans, and my future reviews that hopefully I can do from Norm Brewing. Very first time I'm encountering these guys, as I mentioned, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Romanian playlist and the Belgian playlist, since it is dual nationality, but do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days, even if I do say so myself. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Hop Hooligans first then, since they are the home brewery in this case. So yeah, Hop Hooligans, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Jilava, to the south of Bucharest, the Romanian capital, and this company has been active since 2016, and it was founded by Cristian Mihadinu and Mircea Georgescu. I'm hoping that I'm pronouncing those names correctly. But the story of Hop Hooligans began when Cristi and Mircea teamed up with a guy called Petre Ion, who was the founder of Beer O'Clock, one of the first craft beer bars in Romania. But unfortunately, about a year after the launch of the brewery, Petre died in a car accident in April of 2017, and times proved to be really hard for the company in the following months and years. But thankfully they managed to persevere, and of course they've gone on to build a very good reputation for themselves. Much of that reputation was built on the fact that they brew a wide variety of different styles, and they were also doing a lot of collaborations with breweries from across Europe. And you know, they, as I say, Hop Hooligans were one of the breweries who really helped spread the name of Romanian craft beer. Beretta were the other one. But in 2018 they started canning their beers, and so they became the first brewery brewery in Romania to do this, and the following year they partnered up with Beretta to organise Haze Fest, which was the very first Romanian craft beer festival, and I hope that I can go and visit that one day. That would be pretty damn cool. But in September of 2020 they opened up their own tap room in Bucharest, and they've been working to increase the capacity of the brewery over the last few years, but they've also been distributing their beers to different places across the world as well. You know, I can get their stuff here in Hong Kong, which is just absolutely crazy. But yeah, Hop Hooligans are a very well respected brewery across Europe these days and further afield. But as of April 2025, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 460 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and like I said, they do a whole variety of different styles. We've had New England Hazies from these guys, West Coast IPAs, I think I reviewed a Rauch beer fairly recently from them as well, and we've had various imperial stouts and things like that too. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Hop Hooligans for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a wee bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Norm Brewing then, just repeating myself there. But yeah, we'll go over to the Belgian side of things. So Norm Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Liège in Belgium, and this company was founded by Julien Germain and Marcel Goffin. Again, apologies for the bad French pronunciation. It's been a very long time since I did my French at high school. But these two guys apparently met during Zithology, beerology, whatever you want to call it, course in 2015, and they became really good friends, and so they decided to take a second course together, and it was during this second course that they decided that they wanted to start their own brewery project together. So they started brewing beers in Julien's grandfather's cellar in Tilf, and they wanted to brew what they called modern beers, which basically meant the more American style craft beers as opposed to the different Belgian styles found in Wallonia, the French-speaking region of Belgium. But apparently the first beers were sold in bottles under the brand Local Heroes, and they started Local Heroes Beer Company in August of 2020, but they soon changed the name to Norm Brewing in January of 2022 because they hoped that these beer styles would become the norm in Wallonie. And they also switched to cans at this point, and they released their Hazy Pale Ale, which apparently is the beer that really helped them garner significant praise. So they've been contract brewing their beers at Brouwerij Anders in Holland, which is kind of to the it's in the east of Belgium, actually, in the Dutch-speaking region, if I'm not mistaken, in Flanders. But this is a contract brewing facility used by a number of breweries, and they've continued to brew there over the last few years while collaborating with a number of different breweries across Europe. But during this time, they've also been doing crowdfunding to help raise funds for their own brewery, and apparently they hope to open their own facility in 2025. But a number of the artworks that they use on the Norm Brewing cans are created by Julien, along with his brother Guillaume. And as of April 2025, when I'm filming this review, these guys have produced 26 different beers according to Untappd, and there was another 2 or 3 that had been previously released under the Local Heroes brand. So yeah, in total they've produced about 30 beers so far, but quite a new brewery, and for a contract brewer who's kind of finding their footing, they seem to be doing pretty well. But their beers are supposed to be very, very good, so hopefully I can get one of their own cans and review that for you here on the channel at some stage. But yeah, certainly nice to introduce Norm Brewing to the channel at such an early stage in their history and as part of a Hop Hooligans collaboration. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Norm Brewing then. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can they don't have a brewery website, so you can check out their Instagram feed. That is probably the best way to keep up to date with what these guys are doing, and also they have their own Untappd page as well, which will keep you up to date with all the different beers. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Norm Brewing then, so yeah, check out those links that I mentioned. So let's go on and focus on the beer itself. Like I mentioned earlier, this one comes in at 8% ABV. It's a New England Hazy, Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA. The thing with Hop Hooligans is they always give you a list of the stuff that's on the beer on the back here. So we'll go through that in a little minute. But it says here on the side, I'll let you have a wee look at the artwork there. There you can see social battery. Everybody knows that, you know, sometimes you go out and you're like really happy for the first hour or two, and then after a while you're just like, oh, I need to go home and just chill. So yeah, this beer, the title of this one, I can relate to a little bit. But it says on the side here, always buzzing, always murmuring, chatter and babble, and more blah blah blah. People always spouting more than necessary, a constant overflow of info just pouring down on you with a single selfish, egocentric goal of overshadowing their burdens. That's how it feels when you're running on fumes, at least. All blinkers are on and you've no trunk space left for somebody else's stress. Encumbered, sloshed, spent out, looking for a tranquil oasis to just stop and recharge. Maybe this is it. But yeah, the malt base in this one is Golden Promise chip malt, a very old German wheat variety, if I remember correctly. Oat malt, wheat malt, and oat flakes in this one. The hops are Cryo Pop, which is it's quite an interesting blend, that. But you've got HBC 630 in there, HBC 1019, Eclipse, Nelson Sauvin, and it uses London Ale yeast number 3. So a few quick notes on the hops then before we open this one up and give it a go. Eclipse is an Australian hop, usually 15 to 18% alpha acid. It's very orangey and mandariny, but it gives you a lot of piney characteristics. I've come across it once or twice before, but still getting used to it. HBC 630 I have come across quite a bit before, 14% alpha acid, American hop, lots of berry and cherry kind of characteristics in there. But yeah, 1019, again it's another American hop, 12% alpha acid, and it's meant to be oranges, bananas and peaches. I think I've come across that a couple of times, but yeah, not all that often. But yeah, that is all the information you really need about the beer itself. I'll just let you have a little quick look at the brewery symbols and artwork once again. But yeah, let's get this guy out and into the glass and see how we go. Always enjoy my Hop Hooligans beers. This is one, I've actually had this for a little bit and I've been meaning to get around to reviewing it. Been quite busy, so making notes on new breweries has taken a bit of a back seat, in all honesty, because just too much on over the last month or two. But yeah, finally getting around to reviewing this one for you. So there we go. But yeah, anyway, 8% New England double IPA, this one, Social Battery. Yeah, so as you can see, this beer is poured with a lovely, just about a finger of a soapy, I would say kind of cream coloured head there. You've got some medium-sized bubbles on the surface of the liquid there, and you've got some bigger bubbles the further up that you go. So the head gets a little bit soapy there. I should point out that we are drinking this beer at I don't know, maybe about 4 or 5 months old, something like that. So yeah, it won't be in its absolute freshest condition. But yeah, this one, really nice kind of light, bright yellow mango juice colour, this one. I always like comparing the colour of New England IPAs to different fruit juices, because that really is just what they remind me of. But yeah, remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. 1, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. 2, length of your wort boil is going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. But you don't often have to care about that when it comes to the IPA style category. But yeah, lovely, very bright yellow mango juice colour, this one. Not a lot in the way of visible carbonation, but you can see the head has just faded away to be a very thin, foamy layer. It's kind of a few wisps there, and then you've got a thicker ring around the edge of the glass. But yeah, 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass there, and a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. But yeah, it does look very nice. In terms of the level of haze in this one, when it comes to New England IPAs, of course, the level of haze depends on oat content, wheat content, and to a degree what yeast you use. That can vary from brewery to brewery and beer to beer. But I have to say, this one, for an 8%er, it actually is one of the soupier and gloopier ones I've seen in recent times. Level of haze on this is pretty damn good. It's got a lot of opacity to it, this one. Opaqueness, yeah, whatever. But yeah, quite happy with the appearance of that. This is going to be quite interesting, but the colour of this makes sense when yeah, there's not really many caramelly leaning malts in this beer. So yeah, as I always say, just enjoy, like, have a little look at your beer before you have a look at the aroma and things. But I think we can move on to the aroma section of the video now. So let's have a look at this and see what it's all about. Oh, that smells pretty nice. Quite pungent in its aroma, actually. Now I will say, obviously, as you'd expect, it's quite wheaty leaning, but chit, you know, it's got that very old variety of German wheat in it. It does have that little bit of graininess to it. Even though this beer is about 4 or 5 months old, it does come across as being quite soft and juicy and in quite good condition. So goes to show you the quality of the stuff that Hop Hooligans are producing. Now, as I've often said, when it comes to New England IPAs, there are 6 elements to think about when it comes to the malty and yeasty side of things. So yeah, for me, you always have to talk about the kind of farmhousey yeasty character and the rye leaning grainy side of things. Those 2 elements are a bit more common in New England brewed New England IPAs. The style started out as farmhouse IPAs, of course, but as the style has moved to other places and evolved, the focus is more on wheaty bitiness, oaty creaminess, barley malt bread, and also the sweeter side of things. So yeah, all of these elements are worth paying attention to. When it comes to this beer, I feel that this one, it has quite a lot of wheaty character to it. So yeah, there's a nice sort of wheaty bitiness there, especially in the back of the nose. And you'd expect that when you've got chit and flaked wheat and all this stuff. I think there was 3, yeah, wheat malt, chit, yeah, and of course you've got quite a bit of oat in this as well. But I think the wheat is a little bit more prominent than the oat, in all honesty. I would say this one, it really is quite wheaty and bitey. And of course you get that little bit of graininess to it as well, but the oats I think are a bit harder to detect, so that's quite interesting to know with this particular beer. So yeah, yeah, for me, aroma wise, this is quite interesting. There's quite a bright green component to this one. The fruits are really interesting as well. But yeah, the malty base on this one is a little bit more wheaty and bitey than I was expecting it to be, in all honesty. So yeah, let's break the beer down then, and let's break the aroma down and just describe it for you that little bit more. So the backbone of the beer, you've got a lovely fresh white bready bread crust in there. There's a wee bit of kind of woody, crackery type character as well. Lots of fresh, fluffy barley malt white bread out of this one, incidentally. But yeah, the wheat, that more dense wheaty white bread, plays quite a bit of a role, and you've got quite a little bit of that wheaty bitiness at the back of the nose with this beer. That's for sure. So yeah, nice wheaty bitiness there at the back of the nose. And you can get quite a little bit of oat out of this as well. The oats actually come across as being still quite creamy, but they've got a wee bit of a more porridgey character to them. So as I've often said, when it comes to New England IPAs, the oatiness in these beers can usually be a good indicator of how fresh your beer is. Essentially, the creamier the oats smell and taste, the fresher the beer is, the drier they are, the older it is. So yeah, you've got that lovely fresh kind of, you do get quite a little bit of that creamy oaty character coming out of the beer, and yeah, you've got that nice little bit of yeah, you've got that there's a little touch of biscuity note in there from the Golden Promise as well. Golden Promise always gives you a little touch of Werther's original butter candy butterscotch and a wee bit of biscuit, but I don't really get so much of in the way of sweetness out of this beer. This is more like oaty, porridgey, and more kind of wheaty, bitey leaning rather than anything else. Yeasty side of the beer for me is quite interesting. You've got a good little bit of, I would say, it's mostly a white bready and kind of farmhouse, maybe sourdough bread kind of character out of this one. So yeah, the yeasty side of the beer at the back of the nose, yeah, kind of farmhousey, sourdough type bread with quite a lot of wheaty notes to it. So you get that big wheaty bitiness in there. So yeah, the way that all of that pieces together, I think, is really, really nice. So just take a wee bit of time and enjoy the aroma, that malty and yeasty side of things. But yeah, quite a wheaty and smooth New England IPA rather than anything else. And the oaty character gives you a little bit more porridgey type note into the more that you smell of it too. Now in terms of the hoppiness, when it comes to IPAs, there are three types of hoppings that you can do. You've got early addition hopping, which takes place within the first hour of the wort boil. That gives you a kind of deeper, danker character and is responsible for most of your bitterness. You've got late addition hopping, which takes place within the last half hour of the wort boil. It gives you a little bit of bitterness, mainly flavour and aroma. And then you've got dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete, and that's all about flavour and aroma, and yeah, it gives you very low kind of bitterness. So yeah, West Coast IPAs tend to use all three, which is why they're deeper, danker and more oily. New England IPAs tend to rely on late addition and dry hopping. So yeah, for me, this one's got a very kind of soft and quite wet green component, which suits the more oaty side of the beer. But if you take the aroma in more deeply, yeah, you get that lovely kind of floral note out of it. So there's a wee bit of earthiness in there, as I say, a little touch of woodiness and things, floral aromaticity, and you've also got that nice bright grassy character coming out of this one too. So the way that all of that pieces together, I think, is very, very nice. Yeah, so for me, the green component, I think that's everything we need to say about it. Very soft, very kind of wet. On the fruity side of things, this beer, there's quite a lot going on in this one. I can certainly smell the sort of tropical side of this beer, because what was it again? It was the Eclipse. I don't find this beer, Eclipse was meant to give you a lot of orangey note, and if you take the aroma in kind of deeply, you get a lot of the orange. And was it 1019? I think 1019 was supposed to have quite a bit of orange to it. So you can smell that nice big oily orange to this one. I will say the Nelson Sauvin, I don't think shows up all that much in this, in the aroma at least, which is quite interesting. But yeah, yeah, I don't even, you can maybe get a little bit of that gooseberry, white, green grape, but yeah, I do get quite a lot of orange out of this one. And, there's apricots, there's mangoes. There's quite a bit of mango to this. Yeah, there's quite a little bit of juicy mango to this one. There's some passion fruit in there, apricots, papayas. There is a little bit, I actually smell, I think the thing that makes the aroma, the fruity side of this one, a bit odd is I do get a little bit of that cherry kind of note out of this one, which I think is the 630. So yeah, you do get that little bit of an almost cherry-ish character to this one, which makes everything else seem a little bit more juicy, and it almost makes some of the other fruits a little bit hard to detect. So yeah, I think this one is going to be quite a quirky beer. I think we can safely say that. So yeah, I don't know if there's too much else to say about the aroma of this one. It's quite unusual, so just take a little bit of time to enjoy that before you get stuck in. But I think it is about time that we have a taste of this beer and see what it's all about. So yeah, this one is the Social Battery, an 8% New England Hazy Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA from Hop Hooligans in Jilava, Ilfov in Romania, brewed in collaboration with Norm Brewing from Liège in Wallonie in Belgium. Let's get stuck into this one. Slàinte, skål, cheers, Norok, Proust, santé. Let's do it. Ooh. Yeah. Very smooth. Yeah, this one's quite interesting. The wheat's given this beer a lot of smoothness, the oat's given it quite a lot of creaminess, but it's actually pretty damn light and drinkable. That's the really interesting thing about this. So yeah, really quite light and drinkable, and the fruits are very soft. Yeah, this is quite a quirky beer in a sense. Let's just get all of this out and check. You can see, I think it went even more hazy there, but yeah, it's got a really nice this beer is quite a quirky one in terms of what I've had from the New England IPAs before. It's just the way the flavours go together is that little bit different. yeah, I think it's the cherry sort of flavour. Now I have to admit, I will say that it's a nice enough beer, this, but I think the cherry flavour I love the sort of cherry flavours you'll get in imperial stouts and things like that, but I think cherry and berry flavours in New England IPAs is a different story. I don't know, maybe I need to get used to it a bit more, but it's just not something that is one of my favourite things, I have to say. So the cherry, I think for me, this puts me off saying that this is one of my my favourite Hop Hooligan IPAs. I think that's fair to say. So I think, was that the 10? No, I think that was the 630 that had the berry characteristics. So yeah, I think for me the 630 and its berry notes, it's just, yeah, I just don't think it works that well with this style. But as I say, I could get used to it a little bit more. But the cherry in this one for me, I think it's just because it sort of sticks out in comparison to the other flavours. That's one of the things with this beer. It's a very good IPA, you know, malt base wise and hoppy wise and everything else. It's a very well done IPA, but I think, yeah, just that cherry flavour for me sticks out a wee bit too much almost. But yeah, it certainly wouldn't put me off trying other beers from this brewery, we can safely say that. Yeah, but all in all, yeah, it's kind of, this beer is quite similar flavour wise to what you would expect from the aroma. It's quite a smooth New England IPA. It's got that wee bit of hoppy bitterness to it, and yeah, you've got that soft, juicy, fruity character in there. So solid beer from both breweries. As I say, just the cherry thing that lingers for me is just not really striking a chord, should we say. But anyway, let's break this beer down then and describe it more in depth as we always do. Middle third of your palate. Backbone of the beer, you've got that lovely kind of fresh white bready bread crust in this one. The bread crust is that little bit more grainy, and I would say that that's probably down to the presence of the chip malt. I think chip malt always gives you that wee bit of graininess there. So you get that slightly more grainy bread crust. There's a wee bit of a more, crackery sort of character going forward. So yeah, white bready bread crust, a little bit of a cracker, or a little bit of a woody character, sorry, and then above that you get a kind of sprinkling of Jacob's cream cracker. There's a layer of a more wholemeal, brown bready sort of note sitting above that. So yeah, more of a wholemeal brown bready note sitting above that one. And then yeah, above that you start to get a more barley malt, white bready type character. Yeah, so yeah, wholemeal brown bready note, barley malt, white bread, and then yeah, you've got a more dense wheaty sort of thing coming out of this one. And the wheat is a little bit dry. Again, that's the presence of the chip malt, but it also has flaked wheat in there as well, which I think is going to add to the dryness. So yeah, the bready character of this one into the aftertaste does show you quite a bit more dryness than some other New England IPAs that you're going to come across, that's for sure. But yeah, the other thing as well is we're not drinking this beer in its absolute prime, but it still goes together quite nicely, this one. It does have a bit more of a kind of grainy and wheaty vibe to it, as I say. But yeah, above the more dense wheaty white bready layer, down the middle line of your tongue, you get the oaty notes out of this one. So you can feel the more oaty, creamy character going down that middle line of your tongue, and as you spread out toward the edges, as you spread out toward the edges of your palate, it's got a little bit more of a it's got a little bit more of a kind of drier oaty note to it, which I really like. So yeah, the oaty side of this beer, I think, is quite interesting too. I think in the dryness of the oats and the presence of the chip malt, this one really gives the whole beer a more grainy, almost farmhousey, rustic, bready type vibe. So it's a wee bit different. The other thing to point out with this beer is that it doesn't have too much sweetness. Like in the dead centre of your palate, you get that little circle there where the kind of Werther's Original, butter candy, butterscotchy sort of side of the beer comes out, and there's just a little bit of that, and it's maybe surrounded by a wee touch of biscuit. That's going to come from the Golden Promise. You get a tiny little bit of that almost Skittlesy, fruity type character coming out of this one, but yeah, all in all, I think it's it's more of a kind of bready, green, the sort of white bready, grainy sort of character that comes out of this one. So yeah, I like that about this. I really do like how that goes together in this beer. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for the middle third of your palate then. So let's go to the back third of your palate then. As I've often said, sweeter flavours come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back. And the back third of your palate is going to give you very similar flavours to the middle third of your tongue. So yeah, border region between middle and back third of your tongue, you get the brown bread in the base, the white bread in the middle, then the more dense, wheaty, bitey white bread on top. The base of that back third of your palate, the bread crust is there, the cracker, you've got the wholemeal brown bready layer there, which goes a little bit lighter, taller, and more airy. The white bready layer above that, again, is a little bit lighter, taller, and more airy. Then the more dense, wheaty white bready kind of character that comes out of this one just has that little bit more bitiness to it. And then, of course, you've got the yeasty side of the beer. So let's look at that yeasty side of things. So yeah, the yeasty side of this beer for me, at its core, it's got a more dense, sort of brown bready, farmhousey bready core to it. Now I think it's the chit that's going to contribute to that as well. But yeah, around the edge it really has a very much more grainy, brown bready character, and then yeah, the very, very edge of that yeasty character is like a more kind of bread crusty sort of thing. But definitely, yeah, back third of your palate you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, this is really more of a grainy, wheaty, kind of bitey, farmhousey type New England IPA, this one. But yeah, let's go on to the hoppy side of the beer then. So the back corners of the palate, you get that nice little bit of earthiness in there, and as you move further forward, it's got a wee touch of almost woody character. Not much in the way of piney raisin or things, but yeah, more floral and aromatic as you reach the front corners of your palate, then round the front curve of your tongue. It's that little bit lighter and more kind of grassy. It's kind of a wet grassiness that comes out of the beer. But yeah, there's not too much to report in terms of green component in this one. So let's focus on the front third of your palate then, and the fruity side of things, just to kind of round off. So yeah, border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there. The brown bread, the white bread, and the more wheaty character sitting above that, as we had before. But yeah, the base of that front third of your palate is the kind of white bready bread crust, the cracker, the brown bread, white bread, and then the smoother side of the wheat, of course. Remember, the sweeter flavours come out further forward. But above that, you get that nice oily bubble where the fruity, juicy esters just kind of roll their way out of the beer. So let's look at that fruity side of things then to round off the flavour section. So yeah, the fruity side of this beer for me is really quite different, because it almost feels like the entire base of that oily bubble is cherry. And yeah, cherry is just not, it's just not a flavour that I enjoy all that much, particularly in lighter things like this. Cherry is not my favourite fruit, so with beer reviews, you're always going to get a personal opinion. You might get people that love cherries that absolutely love this, but for me, yeah, the cherry note really just stands out in this quite a wee bit. But yeah, at the back of that oily bubble, you get some peaches in there. There is quite a little bit of, there's peach in there, there's mango, there's sort of, as you move further forward toward the middle of that front third of your palate, there's kind of apricot and pineapples in there. But yeah, into the front half of that front third, there's maybe a little bit of banana as well. I think that's the thing. There's quite a bit of banana comes out of this beer in that fruity side of things, and cherry. I get quite a bit of banana into the aftertaste, and yeah, I've never really liked banana, and I'm not the biggest fan of cherries. I think that's the thing that really stands out to me about this beer. But yeah, as you move into the front half of that front third of your tongue, you can feel the kind of Nelson Sauvin, oily kind of characters underneath. But then, yeah, you've got that big oily orangey character coming out of it too. So, yeah, the way that everything kind of pieces together in this one, I think, is quite interesting. But I think it's not the most. I think just the cherry and the banana notes for me are not my favourite things to find in an IPA. So yeah, it's an unusual beer, this one, and it has made me think a little bit, and that's what I appreciate about it. But the more grainy sort of wheaty and oaty character that this beer has, because of the presence of the chit and stuff, is quite interesting too. So it just kind of goes to show you, Hop Hooligans are willing to kind of mix it up, and I'm sure Norm Brewing are quite into that as well. But yeah, flavour wise, yeah, as I say, not my favourite Hop Hooligans IPA, but again, it's very, very solid. I have had ones that have kind of struck a chord with me a little bit more than this. Let's round off this review then with a wee quick look at the mouthfeel. So yeah, for me, the mouthfeel wise, this beer, yeah, top end of mid-bodied, very smooth carbonation. This beer, it does have a little bit more of a kind of dryness into the aftertaste, which I find quite interesting. So yeah, nice little bit of dryness in there. Yeah, so the dryness is underneath. You do get a little bit of bitterness into the aftertaste, maybe 40 or 50 IBUs in this one. So the malt base is a bit drier underneath, smoother in the middle, and then a little bit of a slightly creamy, sweeter note on top. And then yeah, you've got a nice, juicy, fruity character coming out of this one. I say the cherry and the banana for me are not my favourites, but the other fruits are. I think those two kind of eclipse the other fruits in this one. The big orange, you get in the front half of that front of your palate quite a lot of orangey character, and the Nelson Sauvin's there too. But yeah, the cherry and the banana for me just are not my favourites. So yeah, all in all, a very interesting New England IPA, this one, but I think both breweries probably offer beers that would probably strike a bit more of a chord with me. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. This was the Social Battery, an 8% New England Hazy Imperial, whatever you want to call it, IPA from Hop Hooligans in Jilava, Ilfov near Bucharest in Romania, in collaboration with Norm Brewing from Liège in Wallonie in Belgium. Hopefully we can feature those guys again on the channel quite soon. But yeah, thank you for watching. Check out my social media, check out the brewery's social media, and I'll see you guys in another review very, very soon. Ciao just now.